You'll meet him when I come back from the break.
Isn't it good to know that no matter where you are, you're covered? Covered by a company owned by Vincentians that understands your unique insurance needs. At Metrosint General Insurance Company, we've invested 50 years of service to guarantee that you have the peace of mind that you deserve. When it comes to motor vehicle, property, employer's liability, business insurance, and much more, we've got you covered. Our professional and friendly staff understands your needs and ensures you understand your options. Metrosint General Insurance Company.
Keep calm. We're online now. Thousands of local content for your viewing pleasure. Live. Boom. IKTV. Tune in. Get interactive. Get involved with WhatsApp or Instagram. Interact live. Party from home. Subscribe, follow, send us your voice notes. Check us out on Instagram, Facebook, WhatsApp, or call us live in studio. Be where the world is going. Stay home and connect online. Boom 1069, IKTV. Join the evolution. It's all about you. Connect now.
You're watching Let's Get Down to Business. I am Tony Regisford, and my guest on this profile edition is Mr. Michael Findley. Mikey, as I think I would call you throughout this program, and you're fondly known as that anyway.
Yes.
I have to welcome you to the studios of IKTV.
Thank you very much, Tony.
And it's a pleasure having you as my guest. I know we're going to talk a lot of cricket today.
It's a bad thing to talk this Tony.
Well, I don't think so. It's a good thing to discuss. But we will talk about you, Mikey, as well. You were born in 1943 in the North Leeward village of Trumaca. And, you know, that's some time ago, Mike.
That's a long time ago. You won't embarrass me. It's a long time ago.
Tell me, what was life like in such a rural village back in 1943 and your formative years there?
Well, village life is extremely wonderful.
Mm.
The things you do in a village environment are so different from the capital, from Kingstown.
Mm-hmm.
And the community was at one.
Right.
And those were the days when, as they said, the village raised the child. And I enjoyed that very much. It's a very rural setting. We were on top of a hill, Trumaca.
Mm-hmm.
As you went further north, you got to Rosebank and Peterborough and Chateaubelair.
Right. These are the extreme ends of the country.
Right.
Yes.
My father, in fact, is from Chateaubelair, and my
Okay.
mother is the one who's from Trumaca.
Right.
And I went to Aruba, where my father was working with the Lago Oil Refinery.
Right.
As a child, I went down there with them, and I spent a few years there. And
So you did primary school, some primary school at least in Aruba.
That's right. That's
Mm-hmm.
right. And those days, the people from the islands thought they would send their kids back home to get into secondary school and do secondary school. So I came back to St. Vincent and lived with my grandmother
Mm-hmm.
at Trumaca. And in fact, this is where I got my real formative years in Trumaca.
Right.
It was wonderful.
So let me ask you a question. You came from Aruba as a child. Returning to St.
Yeah.
Vincent as a child. Were you speaking English or Papiamento?
English mainly. I was into primary schools in Aruba,
Right.
and you had to speak some Dutch, some Papiamento.
Right.
But when I came back, nobody was there to speak
it vanished.
English. So all I can remember is, who had it? How are you?
Well, there you go. But apart from your grandmother, Mikey, who were the strong influencers apart from her? And I know in village life, a schoolmaster generally is one such person. Who are the strong influences?
Yes, you speak about schoolmaster. The head teacher at the Chumuka Primary School in those days was Benny Marshall. And Benny Marshall, many people don't know him, but Jillian Marshall, who was a top civil servant, is his daughter. And Benny loved this cricket. He loved this cricket.
So you got an early baptism?
I got an early, yes. And then my uncle, Fandolph Cottle, he's now deceased, he taught at the Chumuka Government School also. And he played cricket. He was a cricket fanatic, as most men and boys were in those days.
Right.
And so he had those two. Plus, I had godparents and other friends, a fellow called Harold Bentick. Those people had a major influence on my life and the way I grew up.
And all of this was going on in Chumuka, eh?
All of this is going on in Chumuka.
So you started playing cricket at a very early age, primary school?
In primary school, I was about eight or nine when I started playing cricket. I played for the Chumuka Government School, and we had a big primary schools competition.
Right.
We won it one year. What happened is that all the schools played, and you got a champion, and the champion played against the grammar school as an outing. And Chumuka won, and we played against the grammar school. That's where I met Doug Cambridge for the first time.
Right.
And then we went on. In those days, though, you had to come to town by boat. So we came up in the morning, the games finished at midday, and we got the boat to go back down. You know. But it was excited, and then we enjoyed the trip. Most we enjoyed the cricket. It was fantastic.
Well, what about the early sort of discipline that I am sure you got drilled into you as a young kid coming up in a rural village setting? In those days, Mikey, I'm sure there's no electricity, there's no running water. Okay? How would you describe that period in terms of the disciplined man that you are today?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you something. In terms of the lack of pipe-borne water to the homes, because there was pipe-borne water in the village.
Correct.
It meant that you had to fill a drum with water every day. So before we went to school, a cousin who used to live with us, Elmo Anthony, he's a pastor in Trinidad now.
Right.
He and I had to share those chores. Filling the drum, sweeping the yard, taking out the animals. We had goats and so on, and looking at the dogs, and then get ready for school, because school started at 9 o'clock. We were just behind the school, so we could have afforded to wait until you heard the first bell,
and
then walk
just run across.
Yes. And so that was the kind of discipline. And then your grandparents and your uncles and aunts. My aunt lived at that time in Chumuka, and she also, we were very close. Her name was Auntie Nina. Her name was Lenora, what they call her Nina. She was a seamstress. And that's a time when the village raised the child, and everybody had the right to discipline you. Not only your direct parents or direct
all
family,
adults,
everybody. And then without electricity, it meant you had to go to sleep early. You did your homework by candlelight or by the lantern or by the lamp, and then you went to sleep. So you went to sleep early, and you got up early, and that was itself was a great discipline.
Yes.
And then you had to do your homework and all that, but it was fantastic. I enjoyed the Christmas time with people stealing your pots and so on,
off the fire.
Yes, and the baking in the oven. And my grandmother was a great cook.
Right.
Fantastic.
Did you have one of those ovens outside?
That's right. That's right.
A brick
oven. A drum oven. Yes. They bake beautiful birthday cakes.
Yes, well smoked.
Yeah.
And what about the chores that you may have had to do? Because I'm sure you won't escape as a rural, child. I'm sure you're not going to escape chores.
Oh no. You had your own chores in the house. What happened? There was a division of labor, as it were, where the girls did the washing up and the washing the clothes and the cooking, and the boys did the harder work. So we were responsible, my cousin and I, keeping the yard clean by sweeping it with bush broom,
Yes.
or coconut broom.
I know those days.
You know, spick and span. Everybody wanted the yard to look the best. And also the water, filling the drums morning and evening. Also looking after your animals. You know, you had to take them to the. Luckily, we had a piece of land not far from the village, so you would take them there and tie them and bring them back at evening and so on. And then on Saturdays, I would go to we had Rose Hall, beyond Rose Hall, a place called Miss Mary. She had some farmlands there, so I'd go up there. Those were fantastic days. All we walked with was the corn pork, and we got everything.
Everything else on the land.
Everything was there, even dessert, because there's a mango tree there.
Right.
Those are fantastic.
And you
days,
cook there. But in those days, nobody stole animals.
No. Stealing was something foreign in those days. You know, it came in later with the advent of transportation, and so on. It came in later. Yeah.
So that village life instilled some discipline. You certainly learned to respect your elders.
Right.
And the cricket part grew from that.
Yeah.
From primary school, you moved into secondary school. Did you have to come to town to do that now?
That's right. That's right. Because transportation, as I explained to you earlier, we had to come by boat in those early days. There weren't any road transport. So we had to live in Kingstown. Those of us from the rural areas had to live in Kingstown to get to school. In fact, when I did common entrance, I had to come up the Thursday. The common entrance was the Friday. And I missed the bus going down, the boat going down the Friday evening. So I had to overnight until Monday to go down. But that's how we were channeled, if you want to call it.
So you passed to go to the St. Vincent Boys Grammar School, and you are now living in town. Were you boarding with somebody or a family?
Yes, I boarded with a number of families. I boarded with. You remember a policeman called Christian? He was an Antiguan. He worked in the police force. He was a sergeant. He was married to a Vincentian lady, Mrs. Christian. I don't know if you have heard of St. Elmo Christians.
Yes. Wasn't he in the band? St. Elmo?
Yes, St. Elmo.
With the police band?
No, St. Elmo wasn't a policeman. He was Mr. Christian's son.
Oh, okay.
But
so I got the wrong
was
person.
in music, yes.
Right.
But so we lived at French's. We lived at French's just above Mills.
Right.
And then later on, I went to live with the Franks at New Montrose. My good friend, and he was like a brother to me, Elliot Frank. We're still very close. We speak for hours every week or so. The Franks had a shop, a grocery shop on Bay Street, in the same building that OT occupies now.
Oh, okay.
You know, so it was nice living with families, especially if you had a person your age group. And when I went to the Franks, it was Carl Glasgow and I lived at French's with the Christians. We boarded because Carl Glasgow was from Georgetown, and we went to school about the same time. So we got that.
So you better put a lot of rural.
That's right. A lot of people from the rural areas.
Yes.
Went to the grammar school at that time.
Yeah, cricket continued there. Who were the people that pushed you through? We're coming to the end of this segment, but I just want to introduce that whole cricketing part of your career, continuing into secondary school.
Well, the games master for most of my career in the grammar school was Winston Batiste. Lennox John had a great influence too, because Lennox was my house captain. And he himself played cricket. He was an ex-player. He played
and he was a cricket administrator for years.
That's right. He was president of the Cricket Association for about 25 years.
Yes.
So that with Lennox's influence, and we played both football and cricket together for St. Vincent, it was a continuation of what my uncle had done in Trumaka and Harold Bentinck. It continued. By the time I got to the grammar school, I had been playing for the village team with the men. So again, I had the kind of maturity beyond my age in terms of playing the cricket. And a lot of people were surprised that here's a man from the country, a country boy, who has come to town and he's playing cricket so well, he's walked onto his house team, his school team, and so on and so forth. But that is because of my background, the influence these people had on me, and the effort they made to ensure not only me, but all the boys who are of my age in that village, we got the same sort of rounded development. That was fantastic.
Well, Mikey, we're at the end of our first segment. When we come back, we'll continue to talk about your movement upwards with cricket. Of course, we all know that you are a former West Indies cricketer, so we will talk about that journey and when you finally got there.
Okay.
You're looking at Let's Get Down to Business. My guest is Michael Thaddeus Findley. When we come back from the break, we'll continue our chat.
Keep calm. We're online now. Thousands of local content for your viewing pleasure. Live. Boom. IKTV. Tune in. Get interactive. Get involved with WhatsApp or Instagram. Interact live. Party from home. Subscribe, follow, send us your voice notes. Check us out on Instagram, Facebook, WhatsApp, or call us live in studio. Be where the world is going. Stay home and connect online. Boom 1069, IKTV. Join the evolution. It's all about you. Connect now.
Isn't it good to know that no matter where you are, you're covered? Covered by a company owned by Vincentians that understands your unique insurance needs. At Metrosint General Insurance Company, we've invested 50 years of service to guarantee that you have the peace of mind that you deserve. When it comes to motor vehicle, property, employer's liability, business insurance, and much more, we've got you covered. Our professional and friendly staff understands your needs and ensures you understand your options. Metrosint General Insurance Company.
This is Let's Get Down to Business. Let's Get Down to Business is a collaboration between the Chamber of Industry and Commerce and IKTV. We're doing the profile edition of this program, and my guest is Michael Thaddeus Findley. Mikey, yes, so you're playing cricket in grammar school. What intrigues me, though, is that, and moving on just a little bit, you were also a national footballer, a national goalkeeper. So you're playing two sports. How did you manage to straddle both and excel at both?
We didn't have a choice. The cricket season was between January and June. Then there was the football season from June after Carnival. Carnival was February. Cricket straddled that. From June to December. Now, you either played both sports or you played one and stayed idle for the rest of the year, which didn't make sense to me. That is why we had a number of our cricketers who also played football for the national team, because they went into one after the other. But I didn't get into football until I got to grammar school, because in those days, Tony, there wasn't much football played in the rural areas. It was primarily cricket. So I got into football by accident. I was in a cadet camp in Barbados one year, and they wanted a goalkeeper, and because I was a little tall, they said to me, "You could keep, you're tall." So I went there. We played against Grenada 8-0. All I was doing was taking the ball and throwing it back out.
Wasn't great keep it at all.
It wasn't a great introduction to football, but I saw then that nobody's going to score 8 goals on me again. So I was determined. I came back and practiced a lot and read a lot about goalkeeping, and that was how I got into goalkeeping.
We're going back and forth a little bit, but I know in your early, not primary school cricketing development, but as you started to play more senior cricket, there must have been a lot of village tours, touring different villages. Tell me a bit about that, because I remember that being a feature when I was growing up, on the Bible playing field, for example, which was my village, on a Sunday in particular. Tell me a bit about those matches.
And I played a lot of cricket on Bible playing field. It was one of the rural areas that we went to play. There was village competition, formal competition in those days. On North Leeward, for example, you had the competition between the villages of North Leeward, Chateaublair, Spring Village, Coast Hill, and so on and so forth. And then in the national sense, overall, there'll be friendly matches called goat matches. They're called goat matches because of the feast at the end of the match. Right. The feast was mainly of curry goat.
Poor goat, eh? Every time cricket came around, a goat had to be sacrificed.
That's right. But very quickly, while we were in this goat matches, it was a community effort. The farmers brought their produce. If a guy had a goat, was rearing a goat, he would sell the team at a reduced price, or even give it to the team.
Yes.
The ladies cooked.
Right.
So and the guys played the football and played the cricket.
Yeah.
And everybody came out that Sunday for the match.
That was the happening event.
That was the happening of that day. People look forward to it. The team that came in, let us say we invited Greg's to Chumuka to play. Greg's would come down the morning from Greg's. They'll get to Chumuka about 9:30, 10 o'clock. They'll have their breakfast prepared of fried jackfish and breadfruit and bakes and so on. Fried bakes or baked bakes and so on. Fantastic. And then for lunch, you'd have a refreshment, a juice, lime juice, plus sandwiches.
Right.
And the big thing, the feast will come after, the curry goat. But one of the features was the club ladies. Now the women are playing cricket. And they used to play cricket in those days. But they participated. The good-looking girls in the village would dress in their Sunday best, and they would come out. And when you're out, especially if you make runs, they would come onto the field and they'd put a dynamite in your mouth. A sweetie. That's what it's called. Dynamite. And give you a kiss on the cheek and escort you off the field. And then if you did well, the other thing is that you will get most of the goat in the evening because the people who were sharing would reward you with a big plate.
So sort of man of the match prize.
You're right. Yes. That's it, man of the match prize. But the village cricket was something else. We took it seriously. Took it very seriously, and because the competition was very stiff between the villages. Everybody wanted to win. But it wasn't taken to the limit where you won at all costs.
Right.
You know? Some of the umpiring wasn't the best because they weren't professional umpires.
Correct.
But at the same time, one understood and we accepted that if the umpire puts you out, you got to go.
You got to go out.
Or if you know you hit the ball, walk.
Yes.
That sort of thing was part of it.
It's a gentleman's game.
Yes, a gentleman's game.
What about the playing surface? I think in those days, some surfaces used to put down a matting.
Yes, but matting was confined to the Kingston area. What we did in the rural areas, we rolled the pitch, the clip pitch.
So just clean.
Clip, yes. Watered and rolled, and the players are the ones who prepare the pitch.
Yeah.
You know, they would prepare the field. They would go down to the playing field the day or two before the match and use cutlasses and rakes to trim the playing field. They would prepare the pitch so that when the other team came down, you had a lovely surface to play on. It wasn't properly grassed, but at least it was flat and nice and the thing. We played at Chumuka. It is the site now of the Chumuka Ontario Secondary School. That field was taken and replaced by that. And we also had in the village a playing area which was opposite the school that I went to. And we played games. The kids, the school children played games in there. And the seniors, the men played gru-gru cricket.
Gru-gru cricket, which means basically you're using the gru-gru from the gru-gru tree, the nut as the ball.
That's right. And you use as the bat the dry coconut branch.
Yes.
You shape it into a bat. And we had some good competitions there on that park. So we had two playing areas that we can use to play. And the good thing about it is that because the headmaster, the head teacher, as you called him in those days, was keen on cricket, he would give the cricketers the Friday afternoon off to practice their cricket. It was a serious thing, you know. And I don't know if it happened at other schools, but at Chumuka, as you entered the school building, the main entrance, there was a chart. The MCC, the Marylebone Cricket Club, had done a chart on cricket coaching.
Right.
It taught you how to bat. It showed you how to bat, bowl, field, wicket keep, and everything about cricket. So as you walked into school that morning, that was right before you. So if you were keen on cricket, well, I studied that thing like I studied my books. And that was fantastic. That is the kind of atmosphere.
So basically, growing up in those days, and going to school, you couldn't help but notice cricket. It was just an integral part of the school curriculum.
It was. In fact, in the grammar school, there were house matches both in cricket and football. And then the school itself played in the national championship, both football and cricket. And so you couldn't find space at the grammar school playing field during the afternoons, because there were people coming there to train for athletics, to play football or cricket in the early stages, football in the latter part of the year. So it was packed.
Yes.
It was really
I remember that myself, and I comment on the condition of the grammar school playing field then, what we call the Richmond Hill playing field.
Yeah, same thing, yes.
Commented on the condition then, and the almost perfect condition it is now. But the difference is, I don't see as many people at that playing field today as I used to see.
You are so correct.
You
are so correct. And nobody bothered about the condition of the field. The field was bumpy.
Yes.
If it rained early in the morning, you could hardly play. I remember once we had a match schedule. Winston Batiste was the games master of the grammar school. And it rained a lot that Saturday morning. And some of the guys didn't turn up.
Yeah.
Winston used to live right across where the Director of Public Prosecution's office used to be not too long ago. And he came across, he looked at the feed, he went back to his home, he came back with some crackers back. And we took the water up, we summed up the water. We didn't have water hogs in those days, with a sponge. And we played the match. And those who didn't turn up, you know what happened to them? Black book and cane.
Yes, that was the discipline of the day.
That was the discipline of the day. That was fantastic.
Mikey, when did you make the national team? Cricket.
In 1960. I had gone to Grenada with what was then the inter-schools tournament. They still have it now, but it's changed a bit. In those days, it was athletics, cricket, and football, and it was confined to boys. Now it's boys and girls, and it's netball and basketball and so on. A lot different now. So after that 1960 tournament, Doug Cambridge, Carl Glasgow, and I had played very well in that tournament, and we gained selection on the national team for the Goodwill Cricket Tournament in Dominica.
Right.
So I was 16 then, and because I had been so involved in cricket from a young age, I understood what was expected of me and what should be happening. So it wasn't shocking to me. In fact,
You must have been the youngest person on the national team.
I think I was.
At 16,
that time,
that's
yes.
fairly young.
Mason was the captain, Frank Mason. And I'll give you a joke about Frank Mason. You know, Frank Mason was strapping and dark.
Tall.
Yes. And he bowled very well. He was quick. And the Botanical Gardens cricket ground was not the biggest in the world. Yeah. So he ran from the boundary to deliver. And those were the days when people turned up, people from the rural areas that came in busloads.
This is the Botanical Gardens in Dominica.
In Dominica.
Yeah.
They came in busloads. And as Mason took off from his mark on the boundary, you would hear the shouts, Balang, Balang, Balang. And as he jumped to deliver, Black Horse. And that gave him rhythm too.
Yes.
So it is against that background that I got into the higher level of cricket, but not quite first class yet, because we only played 2 or 3 days. Each team, all the countries, all the Dominica, Grenada, St. Vincent, and St. Lucia got together in one island, and that was rotated from year to year.
And you always played as a wicketkeeper?
Well, that's what you asked. Yes. Now, I was selected as the deputy keeper to Garnet Niles. He was good. He was very good. And so Garnet played, and I played in that match. Garnet kept. So I played as a batsman.
As a
So my
batsman.
first thing to that level of cricket was as a batsman. I didn't do too badly. I got what? I got in the 30s, which to us those days was a big
A lot of
score.
runs. A lot of runs.
It was a big score. So that's how I started off in this modest Windward's Championship,
Right.
from the grammar school to St. Vincent and so forth.
And then the Windward Islands. Sorry, the Combine Islands had a team.
Yes, first of all, the Windward Islands. The path to the Combine Islands was you had to make your national team, you had to make the Windward's team to play against the Leewards, and then out of that match, that
Yeah, the
trial
Combine,
series,
yes.
you got the Combine
So
Islands.
the Windwards played against the Leewards
That's right.
to form the Combine
That's right.
to go into the
into the
Shell
what
Shield.
was then the Shell Shield.
Yes,
Yes.
I get it.
Yes.
So you went into the Windwards as a wicketkeeper.
As a wicketkeeper, yes.
And were you automatically picked
I
onto the combined side?
No,
How long
no.
did that
In
take you?
In 1966, when the Shell Shield started, I didn't make the team that year. Hector, Auckland Hector from St. Kitts was the keeper.
Yes.
They selected him. But the following year, I made the team and played until I quit. Except when I was away touring with the West Indies.
Right.
So it's
So you basically, I mean, you move at a very rapid pace.
it was.
And playing for the Combine Islands as a wicketkeeper, I'm sure, is what gave you the notice. And that's how you knocked on the door to be part of the West Indies team. We'll talk about that when we come back from the break. You're looking at Let's Get Down to Business. My guest is Michael Thaddeus Findley. When we come back from the break, we'll continue our chat.
Keep calm. We're online now. Thousands of local content for your viewing pleasure. Live. Boom. IKTV. Tune in. Get interactive. Get involved with WhatsApp or Instagram. Interact live. Party from home. Subscribe, follow, send us your voice notes. Check us out on Instagram, Facebook, WhatsApp, or call us live in studio. Be where the world is going. Stay home and connect online. Boom 1069, IKTV. Join the evolution. It's all about you. Connect now.
This is Let's Get Down to Business. My guest on this profile edition is Michael Thaddeus Findley, former West Indies cricketer and now cricket administrator and journalist. Mikey, you're knocking on the door of West Indies cricket. Was it a challenge? How did you eventually cross that line? Because clearly in those days, and I'm sure you're going to elaborate a bit on that, it was not a common feature for people from these small islands to get selected to go on the West Indies team.
Yes, that is so true. We had a lot of challenges, which were mainly of an insular nature, that the larger territories thought that they owned West Indies cricket, both in terms of the administration and the personnel in the team.
Right.
But in fairness to them, they knew nothing about the Windward Islands. When we played as the Combine Islands and we went, for example, to Jamaica, when they were reconfirming our flights to return home, they had some of us going to different islands. The Windward Islands players would be going to the Leeward Islands and so on. That's because they weren't acquainted with the geography of the smaller islands. So we had that. But the challenge I'm talking about is where we were not recognized even for our ability. We didn't expect to just walk onto the West Indies team. We had some fantastic players at that level. But at least what was required is that we be given a fair chance. To a certain extent, that when the Shell Shield preview was done by the leading journalists of the region in those days, you'd hear them write something like, so the Shell Shield starts next week, and the Combined Islands are playing against Barbados in Barbados. That is 16 points for Barbados.
Yeah, so they just made that assumption.
Without a ball being bowled,
Yes.
the Combined Islands would play all their matches and they would not get a single point.
Yes. That was the assumption made.
Yes. And it annoyed us, but we didn't allow it to get the better of
To
us.
affect your performance.
We said to ourselves, we are going to prove to these people one day that we have as much talent as those from the bigger territories, which we did. We started gradually. Once the first territory we beat was Guyana in Dominica, and they had Kanai and Gibbs and Clive Lloyd playing for them at that time. And then the next couple of years, we took on Trinidad, we beat them and so on and so forth until we got around to beating them all. Our best year was in 1975. We had a tight match in Antigua, first of all in Barbados. That's the year we had Viv Richards and Andy Roberts.
Right.
And Andy was at his best. Andy was fast.
Yes.
He was lightning fast. When you played in Barbados in those years, if you won the toss, you didn't have to think, because
you just put the other side to bat.
Yes, the pitch was lightning quick. So we won the toss, we put them in. And Tony, it's the first time I had seen a batsman actually playing from outside the leg stump. He was backing away. Normally you go behind the ball and play, but this guy was backing away to play Andy. And you could have seen that he wanted to get out the wicket.
You wanted to get out.
You know?
Yes.
So that people began to open their eyes that, hey, these guys can play cricket, you know? And as far as I was concerned, I had been accustomed to standing up to the stumps to medium paces and fast bowlers. Apparently, the other islands, the keepers never used to do that.
They never saw that before.
They never saw that before. So when I did it in Barbados, they marveled. You know, when I was up to the stumps, people like Norwalk, Phillip and Grayson Shillingford, and gathering down the leg sides, there were spinners and flicking out the bails and so on. It came natural to me because I've been practicing a lot. I practiced hard. And I mastered my technique. So the match went on late in the evening. Those days, the umpires were the sole authority to decide the light and conditions of play.
They had their own built-in light.
Yes. And we thought it should have ended, but it went on, and we felt that, they wanted Barbados to win.
Yeah.
So years after, a young fellow, Paris, his father's name was Stanton Paris. He's a big famous umpire in those days. You know, we were great friends. I mean, we didn't have that against Stanton thing. And he said to me, "Hey, Mike, how you doing?" And so on. I said, fine. He says, "Boy, I've never seen keeping like you did in that match against Barbados." I say, "Well, you talking about that? And your father allowed the match to go on until the dark because there were lights on in the Kensington stand?" He laughed. He said, "Yes, that is true. But when I asked my father about that, he said to me, but how they could ask for light? How they could talk about light when Findley stand up to the stumps to fast bowlers? You know, but
you were the light meter.
I was the light meter. But the thing is that it was in 1968. We played against England. It was called MCC when you play against the territories and England in the test matches.
Yes.
So we played against MCC in St. Lucia, the Mindu Phillip Park.
Yes.
And one of the English commentators was Brian Johnston. Brian Johnston was a great commentator. And when the game was finished, a lot of people were saying to me, "Boy, Brian Johnston spoke so well of you as a keeper," when I came back home and so on, because those days, once a match was played, it was on the radio.
Right.
And so they said, "Don't be surprised if the West Indies selectors open their eyes to you, you know." And so said, when they named the team to Australia, I was on the team.
You were selected.
I was selected.
So you were aided by that
Yeah,
English
I would say he
commentator.
opened the eyes of the local selectors. He recognized good quality, and he spoke highly of me, and the selectors recognized what he was talking about.
Before you tell me about some of your touring days with the West Indies, were you part of that famous Tantimore match, Combined Island?
I was in the middle of it. I was the captain.
You were the captain?
Yes, I was the captain. That was
Interesting.
75. And it started, like I said, in Barbados. And then we went to Antigua. And we were playing Jamaica in Antigua. Michael Holding was playing for Jamaica, Maurice Foster. And it came down to the wire to get first innings lead. Two batsmen remained in the wicket. What's his name from Go? Hugo, the fast left-hand fast bowler from Antigua, and myself. He was the last man. And we had to be there fighting to get first innings lead, which we did eventually. Went to Trinidad, more tense. The same two people in the wicket, the same thing almost.
Cliffhangers,
Cliffhangers. But the Tantimore situation was a little different in that the match was tied or drawn.
Yes.
And the West Indies rules didn't provide for that sort of result.
Right.
So they sent to the MCC to ask whether or not they had ever come across that and what they had done.
Yes.
And the MCC said to them, yes, we had this similar situation in what particular year. And what we did, we awarded the team that was batting second the most points. So if we had got the points, we would have won the Shell Shield in 1975. And I can't, up to this day, I can't help thinking, had it been Guyana or Trinidad or Jamaica or Barbados in that position, what would have happened?
Yes.
You know, in fact, Prime Minister, he was Chief Minister then, I think, no, Prime Minister, because we got 69, we got independence, 79, oh yes, he was Chief Minister. Milton Cato. He said, when we came back, he was at the airport to meet us, and he said, when he asked, he said, they could say what they want. We done win already. That sort of thing. You know? Because we thought we were unfairly dealt with. That's, again, the challenges. That's the insularity I'm talking about, that thing. Because if you don't have the rules to govern it, and you're asking the people who make the correct rules about it, and they say to you, they happen to us, and we'd have won the championship, but it was a good match. It was a very tense.
So your early touring days with the West Indies, you're a young wicketkeeper. You're in the side. Did you ever feel settled, as if you belonged there, or did you feel as if you were in, but you had to perform, more than if you were from one of the bigger territories?
We always felt that way. The records had shown that if you're from the islands, you have to do twice as much to gain recognition. So that was always in our minds. And whenever we got in the field, we played with that in our minds.
Yes.
We recognize, well, we didn't make it a burden, but we recognize that if we didn't make twice as many runs as the opposite number on the other team, or take as many wickets and so on and so forth, we're not going to get the edge.
Yes.
So it spurred us on. It took us, like you would have seen the film on the West Indies team, Fire in Babylon.
Babylon by Fire or something like that. Yes.
Fire in Babylon.
Fire in Babylon, yes.
And what drove them? That drove them to excellence. That drove us, because we felt not to worry with them. We will prove that we are, and we eventually did. That 1975 series and Shell Shield series was the making of the Combined Islands team.
Yes.
And then another thing happened, which I still have a question mark over. They split us.
So after that,
it was no longer Combined Islands.
It was Windwards and
It
Leewards.
was Windwards and Leewards. The reason they gave was that you're exposing more players. I don't know.
But you're lowering the standard.
You're lowering the standard. You're reducing the strength.
Yes.
But that was it. And then you know what happened. Once the Leeward Islands 1 year won the championship, but then after that, even now they're struggling.
It became watered down.
It was watered. It was watered down.
Yeah.
And one wonders if there was a motive behind that move.
Yep.
But like I said, we always knew that we had to perform twice good as the others. Take Irving Schillenford, for example. He made the team rather late because he had been knocking on the door for a long time. It is true that with people like Kanai and Sobers and Gibbs, not Gibbs as a batsman, but Butcher and those fellas, he had a hard time. But he was good enough to make the team.
Yeah.
Sure, they picked him against Pakistan in 1977, I think it was, when some of the players had gone to Packer. And he did well. He made 100. He played one match after that.
Amazing.
Amazing.
No reason to drop. Just.
I mean, these days, I remember once in the modern day cricket, once a fella made 5 ducks for the West Indies, and he still play up to now. He's still playing for the West Indies.
Yes.
Don't understand that.
Yes. But Mikey, your experience on the road with West Indies, Australia, New Zealand, where all did you tour?
68, 69, we went to Australia, New Zealand. We were away for a long time because we had those days. You had full five test matches.
Yeah,
and what
test
happened?
series.
That's right, series. And what happened is that before each test match, you would play the territory in Australia. You would play Western Australia, South Australia before the test match. As in the West Indies, you would play against Barbados before test match, and so on and so forth. So Australia, New Zealand, that was a long tour. We came home. We spent about 2 weeks. And we were off to England for a series against England. That was the extent. And then in 1976, I went back to England with the West Indies team. Derek Murray and I were the keepers then. In 69, it was...
How come you and Derek Murray were keepers on a touring side?
Yeah.
Was that normal to take?
On tours, on away tours. Yes.
Okay.
But we did it once in the Caribbean, which was not normal. In 1972, I kept all 5 matches against New Zealand. That was the year when New Zealand had us on the run in Barbados to pitch. We batted first.
Yes.
And the pitch and the atmosphere and the ball was moving about.
Moving around.
And Barbados had us on our back foot. And
New Zealand, yeah.
when I got to the wicket, the captain, Gary Sobers, was there. So I said to him, Skipper, I will stay with you, you know. And but he got out shortly after, you know. And I stayed on there myself and the rest, and I made 44 not out, and I played some level shots. But remember, by that time the bowlers were tiring.
Right. So you came at an opportune moment.
Yes. But yes, so they didn't think, the authorities didn't think I could bat, and I changed their mind in that game.
Yeah.
So I played all 5 test matches against New Zealand.
Yeah.
And I whenever I'm involved in something, I always strive to be the best that there could be in that particular field. And I want to be the best wicketkeeper in the world.
That was your ambition.
That was my ambition. And I always felt that to achieve that, I needed to at least keep one match where you didn't concede a single bye, you didn't drop a single ball, or miss a stumping or so on and so forth.
Perfect showing.
Yes. I did that in Guyana. In the 4th test, it was against New Zealand.
Yeah.
New Zealand made 500 and odd runs in their first innings.
And you did not concede a bye.
Didn't concede a bye. I didn't drop a ball. I didn't, you know. And I thought, I didn't even know about it until Reds Pereira years after told me, if you realize you have a record in world cricket, I said, what are you talking about? And he explained that to me, you know. But I don't pay attention to records. You know, I go on the field, I play my cricket, I try to be the best that I could, and that's it. Like photographs, people ask me about photographs. Once a friend of mine came from Trinidad to do an interview at home, and as he walked in the house, he said, Mike, where are the trophies? I said, what trophies?
What trophies?
They're somewhere there.
So
but you see, Tony, the friendships I make in life,
that's what's important,
are more valuable to me than a gold trophy.
The intangibles as opposed to the tangible stuff.
Right.
Mikey, we have one section to go when we come back from the break, and I want to continue a bit with West Indies cricket and talk about some of the current problems and the fans, obviously, you know, real heartaches. I want to talk a bit about that because you're a cricket administrator, and then we'll wrap up, you know, with some of your other achievements. You're looking at Let's Get Down to Business. More when we come back from the break.
to know that no matter where you are, you're covered by a company owned by Vincentians that understands your unique insurance needs. At Metrosint General Insurance Company, we've invested 50 years of service to guarantee that you have the peace of mind that you deserve. When it comes to motor vehicle, property, employer's liability, business insurance, and much more, we've got you covered. Our professional and friendly staff understands your needs and ensures you understand your options. Metrosint General Insurance Company.
This is Let's Get Down to Business. We're into our final segment with my guest, Mike Findley. Mikey, we often say time flies when you're having fun. And there's so much about your cricketing career, and there's more about you as a person. And maybe I'll have to invite you back here to give the next chapter, because the cricket talk is sweet, eh? What was your eventual omission from the West Indies team? What brought that about?
I don't know. Nobody in those days, I never used to explain why you're selected or not selected. They just dropped me. In '73, Australia came up, and they couldn't avoid selecting me because I'd done so well against New Zealand. But the strange thing happened. They had never before in the history of West Indies cricket named two wicketkeepers for a home tour. And they did so that year. They named Derek Murray and I to go to Jamaica for the first test. I suspected what they were trying to do.
Yes.
They were trying to put pressure on me.
Yes.
And I said to myself, they'll never do that. I will keep the best I've ever kept. But in doing so, when you're performing, you need to be relaxed. Not that you're not concentrating and so on and so forth, but you need to be relaxed. Otherwise, you get too tense. You know, your movements are not as smooth as they ought to be, and your glove work.
So you're overthinking what you were doing.
You know, I was too tense.
Yes.
I was concentrating too much on being perfect, and you can never be perfect as a human being.
Yes.
But at the same time, I didn't do anything major wrong.
Right.
But I was dropped.
Right.
I was dropped. But that's how it was in those days.
There's a joke that I remember. You were given the name the Pope. You want to tell me how you got that name?
That happened in the 1972 series with New Zealand about the match in Barbados.
Yes.
Now, Van Bonholder had been bowling from the far end, and he bowled one down the leg side, and Turner, the opening batsman, who was making a lot of runs, he nicked it. And I went down, I moved across, and I went down full length, and I got the ball. But as I hit the ground, the ball fell out the hand.
Yes.
But nobody knew because I gathered it again, I was up and so on.
Yeah.
And the appeal and the umpire sent him out. So I said to the skipper, "Skip, I'm sorry, but as I hit the ground, the ball came out my hand." And he spoke to the umpire, and they brought
him back. Turner back.
When we got back to the dressing room, Roy Fredericks is the one who said, "But you must be a damn Pope." So they started calling me a Pope. But the thing is, Tony, I don't like people do me that.
Yeah.
I try to play the cricket as honest, or whatever sport as honest as I can. And so if I nick a ball, I will walk. You know, and expect people to do the same.
You don't want a shallow victory.
No,
it must be one
yes.
earned,
yes.
not
yes.
contrived.
Yes.
Mikey, as a cricket administrator, both on the national level and more so at the West Indies level, I'm sure you've had a view of West Indies cricket from both sides of the fence. You were a player, administrator, you were a selector, I think you were team manager of some of the West Indies cricket teams. What's wrong with West Indies cricket today? Why are we not performing as those heady days when we dominated for 15 years?
In the first case, Tony, the outlook of the modern cricketer is so much different than when we played. We were driven by the fact that we were the only black nation playing international cricket. And we weren't recognized. I spoke about that, about as far as the Combined Islands was concerned, similar thing. So that we had to prove to them that as a black team, we are as good as anyone in the world. And that as a group of people coming from countries which are independent nations but come together only in the interest of cricket,
Right.
we have to prove
And
something.
they were all former colonies.
That's
of,
right, of Britain.
Of Britain.
Yeah. So that drove us. That drove us. And we practiced hard. We practiced long. You would have heard people like Joel Garner and Andy Roberts and Michael Holding say when they were playing in Australia, and White, that Australian trainer, they used to run from the hotel to the field and back. Fitness is very, very important in sports.
Yes.
You have to be fit because you're spending 5.5 hours on the field.
Correct.
And in those days, I see when I look at the game now, fellas are having water breaks and getting water, and they say you couldn't have water on the side.
No.
And drinks breaks were every 40 minutes.
Yes.
You couldn't have anything between
They were
that.
scheduled. So nobody could run on and bring a bottle of water for you.
That's right. That was a little dangerous because you could become dehydrated.
Correct.
But we survived it because we consume enough water.
You conditioned yourself.
Thank you very much for that word. We conditioned ourselves to meet the conditions that we played under. Good. I find that is lacking in the modern day cricketer.
Yes.
When I look at them play, they are not aware of the state of the game when they are required to make certain adjustments, either in their bowling or in their batting, especially in their batting. Let's take this last series that ended. The bowlers bowled extremely well. You are getting the 3 teams you played against: Sri Lanka, Australia, and Pakistan for under 300 runs.
Yes.
But we couldn't make the 300. It is true that I thought that the selections were poor, that we needed, because the batting was weak, we needed to strengthen the batting. The last match, you played an extra fast bowler when the batting was the problem. I couldn't understand that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when you look at them bat too, Tony, anybody who understands cricket will see that our technique was poor. Too often, we were nudging at the ball outside the off stump that we didn't have to play it.
Right.
Too often, we were trying to make aggressive strokes when there was not need for that. The bowling was too tight.
And a lot of playing across the line.
All the time, playing across the line. And that has come from poor technique. They blame the coaches, but the coaches could only tell you what to do.
So would you say that, going back to the start of our interview, where you started to play cricket, the very early age at primary school, with these ardent cricket followers who took the game very seriously, made sure you got the best training available at the time, would you say that the current West Indies cricketer is perhaps starting his craft too late?
You have hit the nail on the head. I did a paper on this and submitted to the West Indies board long ago. I was a member of the cricket committee then, and I asked them to bring it up, but they passed over it, the cricket committee. I was chairman of that committee before, and when I think Clive Lloyd took over from me or somebody, and I submitted this paper, and but in any sport, I heard that young Canadian girl who
Layla,
right,
at tennis.
You remember at 7 years old, Quebec Tennis Association said to her, "You're not good. You can't make it. Forget the tennis, professional tennis." 7 years old.
7.
And I'm saying that if we don't start our players at 7 or 8, we're losing them. Yeah. Because by the time you get to them at 15 and 16, they are made in their ways of poor technique. That's why they can't change now. Yeah. Haynes and Greenwich and those fellas, Kanai and those fellas, they played with a straight bat. They understood when there is need to defend and when you need to attack. They weren't obsessed with hitting 6s and 4s. They knew how to rotate the strike. They knew how to put pressure on the bowlers. When the bowling was good, they bid their time because the bowlers must get tired. They'll bowl loose balls. They will bowler bowls 2 half volleys per over. That's 8 runs. 8 runs and over is not bad at all. So that is the problem with our cricketers now, that their technique is poor and it is too late to change them. We're not going to get anywhere. You have to start. You have to go back to the primary schools.
Yes. So I guess the onus is on the administration of cricket then. Somehow West Indies cricket has got to get back to where you start breeding players from single-digit age.
Yes, yes. What we need to do, we when the president Skerritt just got elected, himself and the vice president Shallow, we're going to see the prime minister. Because I was based here and I was an independent director, they asked me to accompany them.
Yeah.
And I suggested to Prime Minister Gonsalves that the governments can help by taking charge of primary schools cricket, financing primary schools cricket, of course, with the assistance of the Cricket West Indies and
with coaching and so on.
Yes. And that's what we need to do. If we don't do that, we're not going, because we continue producing cricketers whose techniques are poor, who don't understand the basics of the game, and will be outsmarted and outtaught. I always told people I'd rather play with 10 other men who are thinking cricket than with men who are stars.
Right. Pandering to the crowd. Mikey, we have a few minutes left. You know, predominantly cricket is in every fabric of your body, every fiber of your body. But the journalism part now, how did you get into that?
It was out of necessity. I was secretary of several associations, cricket, football, athletics, and in those days athletics included basketball and so on. And to get your news releases out, you had to do them yourself, because there's only one newspaper and one radio station. So I started from that angle and realized that, hey, well, I like what I'm doing. And it is always good to love what you do and to do what you love. And it doesn't bring pressure on you. You're doing it because you love it.
Comes natural.
Comes natural. So that's how I started. And then I began to report for Reuters, which later became Kana, then AP, Voice of America. I did a story for the newspaper in Toronto, Toronto Star, BBC, and a number of Caribbean Radio Antilles, number of Caribbean radio stations.
Were these mainly sports stories?
No, general
stories. But sports, I imagine, was one that you.
I did because I reported from St. Vincent, and there wasn't much international sport in St. Vincent. When there were regional matches, yes, and when there was international matches, yes. But most of the stories from here in sports were local, domestic. Every now and again, you'll have a man making a big thing and you'll do something with it. But it was mainly hardcore news.
You have many accolades. You said you wanted to be the best wicketkeeper in the world. And I want to ask you, when you were at your peak, do you think you were the best wicketkeeper in the world?
Tony, the thing here is that I've never seen myself keep, really.
But you're being modest.
No, it's not being modest. It's being factual. To be able to assess how good you are, you have to see how you're doing, whether you're adhering to the basics of the game, whether you're gathering properly, whether your movements are good, and so on. I have never seen that. I've seen little clips in the videos, but I would have loved to have been able to see an entire match with me keeping, to know, hey, you're not moving. I could watch now and tell a keeper, you're not moving. You know, you're stretching.
Because you're looking on.
Yes. You know, I would have loved to be able to do that. But
the technology is there today.
Yes, that's right. Technology is there. But people told me I was going to have to accept that.
You, I think you are a diplomat for sports diplomat for St. Vincent and Grenadines.
Yes.
And I am sure Mikey has been awarded numerous awards, recognized by, I'm sure, many sporting bodies in the diaspora and so on. Am I wrong or right?
Not as many. Most of it in St. Vincent. There's an organization in Toronto that gave me an award, myself and Gloria Ballantyne, 1 year. There's a club in New York that gave me an award 1 year. But in terms of what you're talking about, numerous, it hasn't been overwhelming.
What about your personal discipline now? You well, we let the cat out the bag about 1943 when you were born. So we're looking at somebody who chronological age is not a spring chicken, but the visual says something completely different. You are a fit, athletic man. How do you keep that up?
Fitness to me has always been the hallmark of a good sportsman. You have to be fit to play cricket and football. Some people think it's the same. Once you get fit for cricket, you can play football. It's not so. They're different sports. You use different muscles, so you have to train the muscles, and you have to be strong to cope with the wear and tear of these muscles during the season. So what I did is put together a fitness training program, which includes weight training and running.
So you do cardio,
stamina running, cardio, and so on.
And you build your muscle fibers.
That's right. And I've been doing that all the time since I was a little boy. I remember going up to Montrose at a Winty Roberts' gym. And those days we had crude weights, car rims and so on. That's right. You had to have a partner because you had to help them. They had to help put the weights on your back and all that. So and now we have modern gyms, and I enjoy going to the gym still. So because you got to be fit to be healthy.
Yes,
you've got to be fit, and that's why I haven't. I went to the hospital just twice in my life. Once is for surgery for an enlarged prostate.
Yeah,
it wasn't cancerous. That was the first time I was going for spending any time in the hospital.
Right.
And then twice I went to remove hernias, one on the right, one on the left, and I haven't spent any time in the hospital since that.
And you don't have any
the doctors tell me I'm fine.
Non-communicable diseases
like
diabetes or high blood pressure.
No, I haven't got
Mikey, I want to talk about, in the last 2 minutes, the COVID-19 vaccine, because you are a healthy, fit man, you're a disciplined person. What's your view on the COVID-19 vaccine?
Tony, I have taken the vaccine. Jean, my wife, has taken the vaccine. Our daughter and Sarah has taken the vaccine, and we've had our second dose. That's long ago, since in March, since the vaccine came here. Now, I can't understand why people are afraid to take the vaccine in the first case. We've had a vaccine against yellow fever. We had polio vaccines. All these been going on for a long time, and people test these things before they bring them out. So all this thing that people are seeing on social media is nonsense. Nonsense.
So you trust the science?
I trust the science. And what concerns me is that those who are not taking the vaccine are putting other people at risk. And they ought to consider that and not be so selfish.
So it's all about the public good.
Exactly. It's in the interest of the general public. You can't have a few people put the majority of the people in danger. And it's getting worse. And we have to learn to live with the COVID. It's not going to go immediately.
Do you, and this is a controversial question, do you have any problems mandating that certain sectors of workers or whatever take the vaccine?
Personally, I do not have a problem with that.
Yes.
I think at some time in our development, in our lives, there will be need for the people to look at the interest of the authorities, to look at the interest of everybody and take a harsh decision. I hope it doesn't come to that here. But if it comes to that, I'm not going to blame anybody. Let's take the Ebola. We are lucky we haven't got the Ebola.
Yes.
But for argument's sake, suppose the Ebola comes here and there's a vaccine for that. What's going to happen?
A matter of life and death.
Yeah, it's a matter of life and death.
Mikey, we've had a lovely chat. I'm absolutely thrilled with your achievements as a West Indies cricketer. I know we skimmed the surface with a lot of what you actually did, but I think we got some fair ground covered as well. And I'm happy to see that you are here at the peak of your health. And I wish you all the best. And I hope we can chat 5 years from now.
Anytime, Tony. It's been a pleasure. Anytime.
Thank you for coming on. Thank you.
You're most welcome.
This has been another edition of Let's Get Down to Business. My guest was Michael Thaddeus Findley, former West Indies cricketer, cricket administrator, and journalist. Do join us the next time Let's Get Down to Business airs.